Welcome back to Small Thoughts with Shorty Torres, episode 3. As you can see, it's me and Shorty, but we got another guy joining us today. We got Iron Mike, Miguel Rodriguez. Mike, how are you? And how's everything going with you?
Everything's good. We're starting camp for Shorty. We're doing it back in Mexico. So because he's fighting in Colombia, and I told him Mexico is the shit, and the altitude is fucking hard. So and Bogota is actually like a little bit higher in altitude. So I was like, we might as well do the camping here. So he's been living with me, and you know,
Yeah, it's not fun, the whole training in altitude, and then they got pollution here, so it doesn't help. You're just like, oh, breathe in the air. So
yeah.
It's not anything positive here.
Yeah, well, I was gonna ask. So, how was that first day of training? I saw your video, and you're just exhausted. It seems like good old Mike got you all tired out there.
No, we went to what's the gym called? McLean. We went to McLean MMA, and it was just open mat. So we did, we did some drills for maybe 20 minutes, and then 40 minutes of open mat. And was it like 5-minute rounds, 6-minute rounds, but you go with one person, like a top bottom position, and then you go with the same person but switch, and then you do it 3 other times with other people. So you're just like, dude, I just did, what is that, six times, I don't know, man. It's like 6 times 8, whatever that is, 48. So it's like 48 straight minutes of rolling, and then they're like, okay, cool, a little break. All right, go. Now we're gonna do this setup, and you're just like, I don't want to. Now the only problem is is I have a big resume, and especially being a guest, everyone wants a piece of me. And they're like, oh, but they also want to learn. They're not doing it to beat me up, but they also want to test themselves. So like, oh, he's an 8-time world champ. Like, yeah, Shorty, dude, come on. And it's just like this gigantic middleweight that's like, oh, Shorty, come on, let's go. And I'm just like, why? Like, I get it, but why? So what was the guy's name? Thunder?
Thunder, yeah.
There's a really good Mexican fighter here by the name Thunder. And does he fight middleweight or welterweight?
No, he's a welterweight.
He's a welterweight.
He looks like a
dude, he's huge. And he's like, oh, yeah, Shorty, let's go. But when he said it, he's like on his knees, So I'm like, oh, yeah, for sure. And then he stands up and I'm like, oh, it's going to suck. And we're playing top bottom, and he's also black belt. And given he's not beating me up, but we're with MMA gloves. So if you can't get out of position, I can't just curl up and be a turtle. He's gonna hit me. The only problem is he's really heavy. So what he thinks is light to me, I'm just going like, oh my gosh, So the whole time I'm like panicking, trying not to die, and then I'm not one to take breaks, but I'm just like, I need to just go over here, So it was one of those times that I'm a very conditioned person, even when I am tired. That. Yeah. After I was like, dude, I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yeah, and another thing that I want to say is that, like, we've been training in Vegas. So in Vegas, you have, like, AC, you have certain things that makes life better, I mean, in McLean, that's the biggest oven in the world. Like, because we train in a metal ceiling, and it's the last floor. So all the sun heat gets in the mats. Like, even the mats can burn your skin.
Dude, you walk in, you change, you sweat. Like, you're like, oh, I gotta dress up for practice, and you're like about to take off your shirt, and you're already sweating.
Yeah, so that's also like the fact that I'm like telling Shorty, like, dude, I'm telling you, you're doing like the Rocky 3 stuff, like when he gets back in the humble place and everything. Yeah, he's getting humble a little bit.
There's Mr. T's everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like you kind of, considering this fight's gonna be in Colombia, and you were talking about the altitude, it kind of makes sense. And then also sometimes, you need to do those training camps to not keep yourself plateaued, but just continue to keep evolving and building yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I fought last year in Colombia, and I remember there's a mountain called Monserrate, and our guy at Guatemala took myself and my sponsored athlete, Shorty Torres, to run the mountain 3 times a week. And in feet, I believe it's 11,200, and in kilometers, 3,000 something. So, it's overall very, very high, and it's higher than Mexico City, which is saying a lot. Yeah. And for people who remember the Cain Velasquez-Verdun fight, Cain Velasquez was a dominant champion, known to have his conditioning, comes down here only for like a week and a half or the week of the fight. And Verdun already stayed in Mexico City training for a month. They go into the fight, and Cain kept on doing his usual pace, but I believe in the second round, he just died. And people were even like his coach was like, dude, what happened? And he's like, I gassed out. And it was because of the altitude. Verdun was like, ah, because he was training here the whole time. Same thing when we went to Monserrate. The first, it's stairs and hill. It's not like a trail that you run up and like a small mountain that you climb. It just goes straight up. Like no matter what, it's either incline or stairs. And the Colombian in Guatemala is like, oh yeah, I'm gonna meet you at the top. Just follow the trail, you'll be there. And he's already at the very top. And now there's a church at the very top of the mountain. So the general population there, the people of Colombia and Bogota, climb the mountain almost every single day to go to church. Now they're acclimated. It doesn't matter how old you are, you're acclimated. And some people walk it. And it's I believe a little over 3 miles or around 5 kilometers. Me and Edgar are like 3/4 of the way up, and we're trying to like motivate each other, give ourselves motivational speeches. And this little old lady, I swear to you, no less than 75 years old, passes by with her little cane walking, and she's no out of breath, no anything. And she's like, hi, good morning. And we're just like, oh, we got our motivation, dude. Come on, let's go. Like this little old lady's passing us up. I'm fighting for the belt at the time, and we're trying to motivate ourselves. This little old lady passes up, but we did it 3 times a week, and I mean, it got better and better. But it was still, no matter what, it's a really horrendous type of run. The same thing training in here.
For sure. And for you, Miguel, like, was it your idea to bring Shorty down, or what? Or it was your idea, Shorty? Like, who was it? Kind of a bit of cross pollination going on?
Agreement. Yeah, because we were in Vegas a lot of time, and I needed to stay at home a little bit. I need my home, and also with the visa, I cannot stay like too much time, and I cannot pass like certain time, And I was like, Shorty, what do you think? You come live with me some like 3 weeks, a month, and then we go back. He's like, okay, let's do it. So.
And for me, I have my family almost about 2 hours south of here. So I know this weekend we're going to go see my family, visit them. So being able to multitask that. My little cousins also do jiu-jitsu. So, I mean, get a little bit of a break and get to beat up on them is always fun and a morale boost for me. So just makes me feel better picking on people. So for me, I want to be able to do that and then go up to Vegas and have some fun. So, we're here for a few more weeks. And then I believe actually Augie's birthday is the day after we get back. I believe his birthday is June 26th.
Oh, really?
So, I mean, I have to be there for that to give him birthday punches. So whether he's beat up or not after his fight, I got to be there for that. But I mean, overall, man, it's a good experience. Being down here, obviously, for people who know me, I'm not completely fluent in Spanish. So, be down here and have no choice but to speak it. I'm like, damn it. All right, cool. We got to do it. So, learning more in that and just, learning more about Mexico too, my heritage.
Well, 2 things. First off, Mike, I appreciate you coming on, making your appearance on here. It's a pleasure. You're actually our first guest on the show. So before I go any further, we were kind of yapping along. So I do appreciate you taking your time, and as well as Shorty, as always. And second, like, I mean, Shorty, did that book help you at all? Any of that Spanish? You had that book. You had the book on last week, and you're like, I got to read the shit before I get over.
No, so it's the 60 days, to learn Spanish or Spanish
60 days. Okay.
And I did 1 day, right? And I was like, oh, dude, I'm way ahead of schedule because, the first few pages are just the basics, it's like the alphabet, how to say this, how to say that. I'm like, yeah, it's a nice little refresher. Cool, let's do it. But because it was so ahead of schedule, I'm like, I'll skip a couple days to make it the full 60 days. So I read it 1 day and then I haven't done it for like 2 or 3. So I got to get back to it. Thank you for reminding me. Thanks for bringing it up.
Yeah, that's the only problem with books. You got to read them. He doesn't. So.
I bought it. I thought that was going to help, dude. It's also, I can do anything physically all day, even if I don't want to do it. Books, especially when I'm tired. Dude, when I'm tired, I turn into like the littlest, crankiest little boy possible. I was like, deuces, not doing anything. I don't care about what I need to do. I'm out of here. So, especially at the end of the days when we get time to read, or when I get time to relax and read, I'm just like, I'm tired. Go to my room, and I'll just like hide away and do nothing. So, yeah, I'm disappointed in myself.
Like, Mike, be real with me right now. How would you rate Shorty's Spanish so far?
I mean,
90%.
He's a solid 7, I think. Like he can make his way around the city and he won't have problems, like but he cannot like have long conversations, you know, like
Yeah.
he eventually struggled a little bit, but that's normal. That, I mean, he's speaking English like from birth, and
Yeah.
Spanish is not his thing, but he's getting better. Like being around here and talking to people, or just hearing the language is helping me
Yeah.
him a lot.
Yeah, and I'm, because of listening to people, we're watching movies in Spanish and having the English subtitles, or yesterday watching a movie in English and having the Spanish subtitles. I'm like, that's how you say it, huh? I didn't know that's how you would translate it, give or take. So it's a cool experience, actually. Again, not being forced to watch it, but going, all right, because not everyone in this house speaks both Spanish and English. It's broken on both sides. So we're trying to find a happy medium of being able to, like, oh, let's watch this show or let's watch that show. And sometimes, especially with, I mean, it goes vice versa, but we watched a Mexican movie, and I get to read the subtitles, and I obviously speak English, so I read it. I'm like, okay, cool. But he goes, oh no, this is what it really means, or this is what these words specifically mean in Mexico, because it's Mexican slang and the subtitles don't translate it properly. And I'm like, oh, okay, no, that makes sense now. That makes a lot more sense. So it's definitely a little bit of a culture shock, especially to understand different countries type of slang.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing. Like, people think that, oh, I can just pull up Google Translate and I'm gonna learn Spanish in 5 minutes, and I just don't think that's the case. I know someone that did that. So, another person that does like the media stuff, kind of like myself. They wanted to learn a couple words, a little bit in Portuguese. Now, if they really wanted to learn something, they could just talk to my sister. She knows her shit, but they wanted to know just a couple words, just to kind of do with the interview with a fellow Brazilian fighter. And so they learned a couple things on Google Translate, and then they just went ahead and said, "Okay, I'm just gonna say it, and if I butcher a little bit, well, I learned it in 5 minutes, right?" And they put it in, and I guess I don't know what fighter it was, but the guy had talked to her after and said, "Listen, that's not what it like. I mean, you said it right, but like you don't know your slang, so like, props to you, but yeah, like it's funny how people it's crazy how much things change, or like um I don't know, like I guess Spanish is Spanish, but I know in like different parts of the world, one thing I learned, a lot of people in India, it's really interesting how much the language changes every hour in the country you go. Everybody speaks a different language, so you think everybody that comes from India that like might come here, you think, why aren't you guys talking to each other? It's like, because we don't know what the fuck the guy's saying. So it's kind of interesting how it kind of works out, and how much you have to learn to know another language.
Well, it depends on like the countries and the history.
Yeah.
Like India had a bunch of different tribes. Same thing with Russia.
Yeah.
To where I remember in Dagestan, they were telling me, obviously everyone speaks Russian as the primary language, but there's like 200 different dialects because there were so many small tribes that they had their own dialect.
Yeah.
So, or even was it in Puerto Rico? And I mean, general Spanish, like, go ahead, is to pick up. But in Colombia, it's like a sexual thing. Like, oh, I'm trying to have sex with you.
Also in here.
Is it? Yeah. So like in Puerto Rico, like, oh, we're just trying to pick something up. But in different countries, it's like, oh no, we're trying to have fun. That's a whole different thing. Like, oh, my bad.
No, there would be like in Spanish, there's like certain words that also you would direct to somebody, whether you're a woman or your man, correct?
Mm-hmm. Well,
So,
I mean, the O's and A's, but yeah.
Okay. Well, like, cause I understand that, because like that was something that my sister had taught me. Like she lived in Brazil for a year, and obviously they speak Portuguese, but she said that Portuguese and Spanish is very similar, and they do share certain words. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
similar, but they have their things. It's like Italian. It's a lot like Spanish also, but it's not like
Italian, French, Portuguese, and Spanish are all extremely similar. Even English. There's actually a guy who does like a YouTube channel on the different languages, and like he'll say hospital. It's like hospital in English, Spanish, Italian, French, Portuguese, and then he says it in like German, and it's just a super extremely long, aggressive word that sounds like something bad. So they're all very similar, besides obviously different countries, Russian, Germany, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's really neat. I feel like if you wanted to talk to someone personally, but I think Valentina Shevchenko would be the best. She speaks almost like every single language.
Yes,
it seems like. Yeah, she's so skilled.
English, Spanish, Russian, obviously, and I don't know what else? Like
I know a lot of Brazilians speak 3 languages, and that would be English, Spanish, Portuguese. But you can hear when they speak Spanish, it almost sounds like they're speaking Portuguese.
yeah, it's like cheating,
accent.
bro. It's like yeah,
Like,
I
you're
can
already
say
right
that I
there.
can speak like Portuguese a little bit, like obrigado and all that thing, but I don't speak it. You know, like it's cheating. It's a little bit cheating.
Yeah. So, this is gonna be the biggest one here. How did you guys meet in the first place?
Let's see. I was punching Lazy Boy in the face. Then he wanted to introduce me to his coach, and that was Mike. And I was like, yeah, I'll meet him. And I guess Lazy was saying stuff about me, but he didn't know who I was, at least resume wise. He's like, yeah, I'm sparring with this guy, good guy, cool. And then Mike's like, who, what? Then he's like, dude, that's Shorty Torres. So it's a crazy small world that how we came together and. Do you want to tell it? I feel like you have a better storytelling than I do with that.
Yeah, it was like Lacey was fighting in another state. It wasn't Mexico City, yeah. So Shorty flew to Guadalajara, and I also flew to there. But the funny thing is that Lacey, he doesn't speak English at all, and he says Shorty instead of saying Shorty, he says Chori, like Chori. So I'm like, okay, Chori, like some song that it was trending in Mexico or even in the United States, right? I was like, okay, Chori, right? Like, cool. I will meet him. He's like, oh yeah, he's really good. He's a friend from Vegas and everything. I'm like, great. I can't wait. No? And I was in the room with him, and Chori was in the lobby, and he came to the room, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna get my friend. And I saw this motherfucker going into the room, and I'm like, oh, that motherfucker Shorty Torres. I know that guy, like, because I used to be a fan of TJ Dillashaw, and I knew that he was like his main training partner. And I was like, I know my MMA, I'm a nerd in that way. So I was like, oh, that Shorty Torres, oh, he's pretty good. Like, and Lacey's like, yeah, I tell you, he's really good. And I'm like, no, he's really good. It's funny how Lacey didn't know who he was.
The funny story is, like, for me, when I went to Extreme Couture early last year was the first time I was there. You hear different dialects, Russian, and you hear the different types of Spanish and the accents. You hear Mexican Spanish, you hear al huevo, you hear way, and all. It's like, oh, these are the Mexican group, and then they're so like enthusiastic and fun. And then you hear the other languages, you hear different swear words and slang, and I'm like, oh, they're Puerto Rican, they're Colombian, this, that. And I got along with the Mexicans, but it's funny because even if you don't speak Spanish, when you spar with somebody, you're like, you're Mexican. Like, what? Because Mexicans don't give up. And sometimes we'll throw away all skill. And we're like, no, let's go. Let's fight right here. And so when I met Lazy, I was like, all right, well, we're going to spar, and we're just going to go hard. And that's how Lazy goes. But I'm like his big brother when it comes to sparring. So I beat him up a lit's bit, and I actually hit him because fucker's trying to kill me. So I'm like, no, fuck you. So I try to hit him back hard. And he's like, my eye hurts, but I like this guy,
He's good. He's good.
And the funny thing was, when I first went to Vegas, I was renting an Airbnb from Killer Bean Win, and I didn't have a car. And I was like, man, you know what? Let me buy a bicycle. The gym's only like a mile and a half away, 2 miles. I'll buy a bike. It'll be good. The only problem is it's fucking 100 degrees in Vegas at the time, and I'm riding a bike outside in the middle of the sun twice a day. And for people who don't know, Vegas is a big mountain. It's just hills everywhere. So if you go one way, it's all uphill. And for some reason, even when I was going downhill, the wind's blowing against me. So I'm fucking dying every single day by the time I get to Extreme. And I get there and I meet Lazy, and they're all sharing this, little like pickup truck. And out of nowhere, Lazy looks at me. I look at Lazy. I was like, man, Lazy's struggling. I can tell, like, he doesn't have money. He's from Mexico, Veracruz. I got him. I'm not treating him like a poor kid, but I'm like, dude, I got you. If you need something, you're in my country. I'll take care of you. But Lazy, I didn't know this, thought I was fucking poor. And because he's like, oh, this poor kid, he's riding a bike every single day to practice. He's like, oh, I'll give him a ride. He put my bike in his truck and then, drive away and then, take me to my house. So it was just funny how there was misconceptions about both of us. But I told him after if I was going to get a fight, which the fight ended up being canceled. The first fight against Nkosi got postponed. He's like, hey, I fight in Guadalajara. I was like, you know what? Let me go out and see you fight. And so I went there, and he's like, oh, shit. He showed up, which, funny story. I have like a Hilton timeshare, so I get to stay in nice, like the beautiful Hiltons. And so I'm in the nicest one in Guadalajara. It's like Midtown, beautiful. Like literally, you go blocks away, you're like, dude, where the fuck am I? Like it's one of the like beautiful, beautiful one. And he's in a fighter hotel, and it's fight day. I was like, all right, I know they want to work out. Let me invite them to my hotel. It's a gigantic gym. No one ever uses it. So I was like, oh, let me invite Mike. Let me invite Lazy and maybe Lazy's girlfriend, and we'll all train together. This motherfucker does the most Mexican thing possible and invites all of like upper management that's on the card. And so 15 people show up to my hotel. And it's fucking, dude, it's like 3 Ubers, full. Now, Guadalajara's known for cartel, like it's not even police, it's a military walking around the streets with like gigantic assault rifles just in case. And so you have like 3 cars full of guys who look like they're gonna kill somebody. They're like, tattoos in the face, all rough, and it's Mexico, so, and they're ready to fight. So they have this mean face, and they all show up in this beautiful, nice hotel in Midtown, and I'm just like, oh shit, Lazy, but there's 15 people. I'm not gonna tell them no, because 3 of them fought on that card that night. So I'm like, all right, well, let's just go to the workout room and figure this out. Go to the workout room, and they immediately knew what to do. They start grabbing everything, moving it, so there's space in the middle, and everyone just puts on gloves. Now there's a camera in the workout room, and it's looking in the workout room. So I can just imagine just them seeing a bunch of people grabbing all the gear, moving it to the side, put on gloves, and just start like hitting each other. Because that's all we did. It was like a light sparring. And so we're like, yeah, we're going to hit each other. And then out of nowhere, security shows up. And I'm like, all right, you guys handle this. I'm going to try to drag this out as long as possible. And I was able to like talk it out. But like right when I finished talking it out, they're like, all right, cool, we're done. I was like, put everything back. We got to get the fuck out of here. So they didn't kick me out of the hotel that day. But I was like, dude, it just looked like a big cartel like fight party inside. It looked like a fight club inside the hotel workout room. And it was, I was kind of afraid I was going to get my room revoked and membership canceled.
That's great. That's great. The story you got going on there. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know, like, I mean, for you, Mike, like, what would be one of your craziest moments of your career?
Of my career, like as a coach or as a fighter?
No, as a fighter, and then I have something to follow up on that after.
Well, actually, I have one. Like it's my second fight in pro, and I remember they're like, "Hey, do you want to go to Monterrey to fight in a MMA event that it's gonna happen at the same time? That's a concert." And I remember it was a POD concert, a Kiss concert, a Guns N' Roses concert, and I don't remember what else. But it was packed. That place was packed. It was a metal fest, like festival, And I remember I was the main event, and I was like, okay, let's fucking do it. And I was against a fucking guy from Monterrey. And everyone was wooing me at the beginning. Like, we're like, chinga tu madre, fuck you, and everything. And I'm like, okay, let's do it. And we were like to war for the first round until I got him into the ground. And I started like ground and pound the motherfucker like really, really hard. I remember his head bouncing, like everything. They didn't want to stop the fight because they want to give the hometown guy
an advantage.
Like advantage. But I remember like everyone starting to rooting me now. Like, Chilango, let's go. Like from Mexico City, that's slang, like Chilango. And I remember like 10 guys like grabbing the fence and starting saying like, kill that guy, and starting like going crazy and shaking the cage. And I was like random pouting that guy, and I got distracted because it was something really, really crazy. They were like apes, like going crazy. And I was like, okay, well, and I started elbowing the guy and everything. But dude, it was so fucking surreal because it was packed, like really, really packed. It was a festival where they put fights on it, like everyone's drunk, everyone's on drugs, everyone is like I think they want to fight, but they don't fight. But they see that there's fights happening, so everyone goes. And I remember it was a sea of people, there was a lot of people. And these guys were like grabbing the cage and everything until I won. I stopped the fight, and everyone's like, yeah, let's go. It was fucking hilarious, man. That's one of the greatest moments I ever had.
It's like a professional mosh pit at a concert.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Yeah, I was against Monterrey. I end up like having that moment, like winning the crowd and everything. And then this guy's like, I still remember that guy. Like he was like a metalhead, like with the long hair and everything, Mexican as fuck, like Felipe Esparza, something like that. And he was grabbing the cage and he was making eye contact to me. Like he was like going crazy, like you can feel the energy. It was great.
I kind of like that. I like when you have a fighter who's getting booed, or you get people that are going crazy, and then you turn the heart of the crowd and they start cheering for you. As a viewer, I think that's awesome. I love watching that.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. The only down part about that is like I beat so much that guy in the ground that I broke my hand, and I was like getting drunk in Monterrey with my hand in a cast, and I was like, "Oh, it hurts so much. Give me another beer and everything." But it is what it is. But it was good times.
So, Mike, I said I was going to follow up on that. So, what do you find is the biggest challenge between being a coach and being a fighter?
Like to balance it, or like
To like balance it. So, like obviously, you have yourself as a fighter,
yeah.
and you prepare for your own fights, but then to be a coach and having to apply what you know to help someone like Jose here, or your other other fighters that you help train for their fighting camps. So, what would you find is the biggest challenge on that?
I mean, it's a challenge just to like separate the moments that you need to be like having the spotlight for the other guy instead of like having it for yourself. That's like the hardest thing. But I'm actually like, I'm not that selfish, So I'm like, okay, it's his time, it's Lacey's time, it's my other guy's time. I don't care. Like my time will come. But meanwhile, I'm making the most of it. Like Shorty's training and everything, and he's doing his thing. But me, I'm learning all the time. Like I'm learning from him, for all the guys from Extreme, for all the guys in Mexico. I'm still learning, because that's something that I find like helping me a lot. Being a coach all the time is making me thinking that I have to learn to become better, So I'm always learning. And not just fighting, like diet wise, like training wise, like mentally wise, everything. It's like I'm always preparing myself for that. So I'm never bored. So it's like, okay, I'm not fighting, but I'm sparring either way. I don't give a fuck. Like I need to keep doing it, So I spar with him. I spar with Brian Searcher. He's in the PFL. He's with Lacey. Everyone in the Extreme. And it's pretty fun. I'm still learning and getting there, So when I fight, I'm actually thinking like if he fights and there's like one fight, like, hey, do you want to fight? I'm like, well, of course, I'm training the whole time.
Yeah, he's already in shape. And
I'm in shape. Yeah.
The cool thing is he's also humble enough to go, like, we're all different styles, we're all different levels in our career as well. Yeah. So where he can spar with Brian, he can spar with Lazy, he can spar with myself, and he'll explain the technique, and it's like, oh no, I like doing it this way, and he's like, okay, well tell me why. And then he's like, oh, that's why it works, and it gets to teach him something new. Or for example, like I'm small, maybe he's working with Danny Sahuber, and Daniel's super long. So the technique wise is very different, especially in the submission game. So I know, at least from my experience, when I try to teach longer, taller people, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot these moves don't work as easy for you because you're not as long. It actually works better for short arms when you're more inside, or vice versa. So I'm like, oh, so for him, he gets to learn the different experience and just have fun. And he stays in shape. He diets with me. I know, very different from when we coached Lazy, but Lazy would make me eat everything that he wanted to eat. So I ended up gaining more weight when we were down from Mexico City, UFC Mexico City. But for my last camp, he dieted with me. So we're taking pictures while I'm like leaning cut. He's like, I'm leaning cut too. Oh, it's like, hey, all right.
Make him feel good. Yeah.
He's always ready to fight. And that's something that, like he says, he's not selfish, which 100% he's not, which I'm thankful for, because I'm selfish as fuck. But the fact is, I'm also trying to get him to fight to where one day we can switch. I'm like, oh, I'm in your corner now. I get to yell at you and tell you to do stuff, but I won't do the workouts. And so he can do all that stuff, and we'll have some fun. So we'll one day get him back inside the cage and get him beat up.
Yeah, we're getting. It's just a matter of time, but now it's his time, and it's gonna be Lacey's time. So I will make it over there, I don't care. I'm still training, so it's good.
Yeah, I mean, when are we gonna see Iron Mike back in the cage?
I don't know. I need to figure it out because now with all these opportunities, it's like I can't go because hear me out. Like in Mexico, they don't pay shit. Like they don't pay good money. I'm like, nah, I'm not doing it. Like it's not fair that I'm winning more money about coaching than fighting. Like in that way. So I'm like, if I fight, it's gonna be in the States. Like I need to grab something over there, and money needs to make sense.
He's like, wait, fight for this many pesos, or Shorty can be my sugar daddy?
Yeah.
I'm going to the US.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then that's like the thing. I need to be there to grab a fight, and it will be whatever.
We went to a restaurant the other day and we ordered a lot, like brisket, lasagna, this big old cheese Gouda, all these things, right? And
it was a nice restaurant.
Oh, a very nice restaurant where you're like, they're preparing it for you right in front of you, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, this is fancy. And so in my head, I'm like, oh man, they've been taking care of me. I'll just pay the check. But I'm looking at all the food and how fancy it is. I'm like, fuck. They're playing like EDM music in the background. And I think any place that plays EDM music as their general music, I'm like, it's expensive, And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just pay. And I look, and it's in like so many pesos. And I do the calculations. It's like, this much, I was 20% tip, 50% tip. I don't care. This is great. So
we spend that in the Greek place in Vegas or something.
I'm balling in Mexico. It's amazing.
And so, I mean, speaking about the fight camp, obviously, Shorty kind of talked about you got an opponent, and obviously, Mike, I assume you would know the opponent as well. So, obviously, this is only the beginning stage. Obviously, I'm sure you want to get back into the game and everything, but do you both know an idea of when you're starting to focus on the opponent versus just getting back into the training? Like, do you know what kind of time frame you're looking at?
I mean, right now we're definitely trying to get back in shape, or at least condition wise. Because the good thing is, like, I'm not completely out of shape. I was sparring in Chicago, but the altitude here is very, very different. So there's really more getting acclimated to that, and then focusing on drills, stuff like that. Because I know once we get to Vegas, then we have the bodies, then we can get very, very specific. So I believe, I could be wrong, that when we get to Vegas, more predominantly we'll focus on my next opponent. But until then, we're just kind of having fun, picking the bodies, trying to get conditioning, trying to mix and match, have a little bit of a difference so I can not do the same thing over and over and over again until I get very specific. But I think also just having fun while being here too, because camp automatically gets extremely hard, especially that last month or last 6 weeks. So going to Vegas, I know I'm going to have a good time. I have a family out there now, and being able to hang out with all the people that I do, it's going to be a good time.
Yeah. So did Brave talk to you? I know they're still working out the details, but have they talked to you about like the time frame of when they might be setting up that fight?
I'm hoping in August. So the only problem, and it's not the problem with Brave or any problem with it's all promotions in general, is I mean, how many was it? The Mike Tyson, Paul fight just got postponed so many more months. It's one of those things you're like, man, they could say, Colombia, for example, is more than likely where my next fight's going to be, but we don't know for sure until a contract is signed. Or, for example, I was supposed to fight in Kosi in Israel last March, or, the March before this last year. So it's like I was going to fight him in Israel, and then political things started to pick up in Israel, and they're like, yeah, we're going to have to cancel the whole card. And they moved us to late April in Slovenia. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to fight in Kosi in Slovenia. And then, nevertheless, spending all the money for camp. And then out of nowhere, Nkosi didn't have his passport situated because, again, some countries, it's a minimum of 6 months before it expires. You have to get a new one. So he needed a new one. He didn't know about it. And, people weren't paying attention. And there was a mishap. And I'm like, well, we got to wait until August. So it ended up being a whole training camp for 8 months to fight one person, and given that ended up being like almost 2 years. But with that being said, my next opponent might be for sure right now until even if the contract is signed, it might change, the week of the fight. So that's the hard part. I always say, especially for my family who likes to come out and fly, I'm like, dude, buy travel insurance because especially with international flights, they might be at minimum $1,000. My fight gets canceled. I'm not going to Colombia or Mauritius or wherever the hell my fight is. You got to get that money back, dude. So unless you're going to take a free trip for the fun of it, there's no hotel room, there's no anything. So it gets complicated, but we're just focused on the opponent. And that's also the benefit about having so many different bodies, not just here, but at Extreme, is I get to mix and match. Again, I was a 2-time IMF champion. You don't know who you're fighting until the day of, or that next day. So you got to be ready for anything. For me, I just like to have fun, and I don't care who's in front of me. I just want to have a good time and get paid. That helps.
Yeah, so that's actually what he's thinking. Now now my side is like, I'm working on some things that he doesn't work on. Like
Spanish.
No.
Yeah, besides the Spanish, come on.
No. I just want like
all night.
My relationship.
Like these weeks are gonna be something for Shorty to grab skills that he doesn't like. I know he can do it, but he's not working on them.
Working on my trauma.
Yeah. So I'm like getting more tools into Shorty's game, like from now. I think this fight, it's gonna be way easier. Like, I'm not gonna say easier, but the body type of Nkosi was a game changer. It's something that it's concerning in the preparation. So
real quick, because I'm still triggered by my last fight. Is you got a guy who's 6 feet tall. Again, Calvin Gastelum, Israel Adesanya. That was the wish version of that fight.
Yeah.
All right, but Israel Adesanya wanted the fight. He goes, "Yeah, I'll bang with you." My opponent, you're not just long, but you're not just keeping me away with jabs and teep kicks, but you're running and moving in circles. I'm like, dude, come on, man, I want to fight, So it's like, given I believe my next opponent's a lot closer to my height, that he's also, I believe, more of a prideful person. It's like, dude, you want to go? Then fuck it, let's go. So I think it's going to be a lot more entertaining of a fight, to where I can have not just a better chance to put on a show, but punch the guy and be in the center of a fight and put on a show for the fans. But continue.
Yeah.
No, oh, sorry. No, you go ahead. Okay.
What am I talking about?
So that's his thing, He likes to have fun and everything, but I'm like in the other side, I'm like, dude, I don't want you to be hurt, I don't want you to see you bleed. I know that's fun. And if he wasn't my fighter, I would be like, yeah, bleed, like, I don't care, like, it's funny. But he's my guy, so I'm like, no, you need to pay attention of what you're gonna do. If you want to stay in the fire, you might as well be the one who is giving the fire and not taking it, like, and I just want to Shorty have the tools and the mindset that it's gonna be like, okay, I can stay like in the Mexican style, but instead of getting hit, I want to give the pain, and that's my main goal with him now. Like, he's really, really excited to have a war. I just rather him to have like a really intense fight. When you pay attention and everything's in slow-mo, you can see how he's taking the punches away and he's the one landing the most shots.
Yeah, as you can tell, I'm already practicing my head movement. So
yeah,
see? You say I have no head movement.
Yeah, for sure. And for you, Mike, obviously, you being a fighter, in a fight, you got to keep your composure. But also as a coach, when you're cornering guys, you also have to keep your composure as well, I would assume. And so, when you're watching guys that you corner, is there times where maybe your fighter's doing the right thing, but maybe it's not going the way you want it to? So what do you do to kind of keep your composure in those situations to keep to help your fighters in between rounds?
He screams random stuff like, "Don't give up, give it everything you got, head movement."
No, I'm like, every fighter is different, like, right. Let's talk about Shorty. Like,
I was not hoping to put Jose on the spot here, but okay.
Yeah,
no, it's okay. We're gonna fight after
He's
this.
Actually really fun to coach because he's fighting and everything, and then he goes back to the stool. He's like, hey, give me advice, like he's waiting for you to talk, and that's really great because in the other side it's like lazy. He's just like a dog that he's chewing something like and that's really hard to to say something to someone that it's like just eager to get back into the fight. So what I like about coaching is that you need to know the fighter. That's why I like to only have like 5 fighters tops. Like, I don't like the coaching style of like, oh, I have a gym and I coach these guys and I don't even know how they fight, or I just see them like 1 hour or do mitts with them. No. I like this style, like moving around the world with them, knowing them as a person, their personalities and everything. That's something that I think brings coaching to the next level. And also, like during the fight, you need to know how is the rival like responding to your advice, because there's fighters who listen to the other corner and they're aware of the other things, like in the last fight with Nkosi, Shorty was wrestling with him, and I was like, oh, Shorty, you got him, he doesn't know how to wrestle and everything. He was focusing on me instead of Shorty. And I was taking the attention away. And you need to know when to mess with the other fighter, and instead of giving advice, or sometimes you need to be like
the Sean O'Malley, Aljamain Sterling.
Oh yeah, 100%, something like that. So you need to know, and sometimes corners don't know how to corner. It's funny because if you give too much indications, sometimes you overwhelm the fighter. He's like, you can be like, shut the fuck up, and like, let me fight, like you need to let the fighter do his thing. And you need to like give advice during those exchanges, like you cannot be like, yeah, do that, yeah. It's not fucking PlayStation, like you need to let him be and then see the holes in the other guy,
Yeah, every fighter is different. You look at Sean Strickland and Eric, it's just how Eric talks to him. He gets his language, and every fighter has their own language. Some fighters, at least I use wrestling as a description. Me, I wasn't getting punched in the face in wrestling. So I was like, yeah, okay, cool, let's go wrestle and have a good time. And I get competitive as the match goes on. But some people are just 100% wrestlers. They're like lazy, like you're just ready to go. And that like coaches are like smacking them in the face, and that's their motivation. Like, and some fighters like, yeah, cool, let's just go in there and have a good time. So everyone's very different in how I can say something very clear, and obviously their language in English in some sort of way, like, oh, you need to do this. And some fighters like, yeah. And then some fighters just goes right over the head. And then some of them you need to say the same thing, just in a different way for them to better understand it. And that's at least it gets complicated. And Mike's 100% correct. Like you have to know your fighter and know how to speak to them.
And the fighter needs to trust the coach. That's also like something really important, because I've been like in cornering fights. Like I went to Canada, like I went one fighter or two, but there's like 3 more Mexicans that they're alone, and they're like, hey, can you help me? And I'm like, okay, I can help you, but I'm not your coach. I don't know what you do. And then I'm giving advice, and maybe they don't have the skill, or they don't want to do it, or they don't trust me, that they don't do it. So it doesn't matter, like, if I'm good at coaching or good at fighting, if you don't listen and you don't trust the advice that is given to you, or you don't have the skills, it doesn't matter.
You just end up being a water boy.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that the Shorty, hey, Shorty, high kick. He doesn't do that, like
I can't do it. I just don't choose. Well, at least with my last opponent. Last opponent, I think that was a reasonable, like, okay, he's not gonna throw any high kicks. I didn't even in the face though.
Oh yeah. But you need to say something that is gonna happen, like something realistic,
His knee was better, but
I think like as long as you don't give that kind of advice that I'm trying to think, it was Rousey and Travis Brown's coach. What is it, Emmond or something?
Yeah, Hemomet.
Yeah. And have movement, and you can do whatever you want. And I mean, like I remember watching that fight, and I don't know. I mean, like,
well,
I don't think you can give any worse advice than that guy could give.
Well, but I think the hardest part is, and I've personally faced this a little bit in my career, especially when I was entering the UFC, is I had all these accolades going in that now all these interviews and now all these people, these platforms are Shorty's this, Shorty's that. So same thing around the Rousey, where out of nowhere she's this big time judoka tapping everyone out, and then one day, I can knock out Floyd Mayweather in a fight, and it's like, what? So eventually that hype starts to get into you to where you're like, dude, I'm the shit. I can do whatever I want because everyone believes I'm that good, so I should believe I'm that good. Which, again, there's nothing wrong with believing you're the shit. But you also have to be humble enough to go, man, this person's better than me at this. I'm not going to fight him at that. or I'm not going to fight him at most of the fight like this. I need to get to my strengths and do what I need to do because he's probably, or he or she is probably a little bit better than me at that specific skill. So that's the hard part when it comes to that type of coaching where, even the coach starts to believe it, like, oh yeah, you know what, you guys are right. She is the shit. Yeah, she can do this. And, Muhammad Ali has a quote, if you say you're the greatest long enough, eventually people will start to believe it, So, I mean, Muhammad Ali, I believe, is one of the greatest in the world. Greatest boxer? Probably not. Again, that's obviously up for debate for multiple different reasons. But he said he was the greatest so much that people started to believe it. Same thing with Floyd Mayweather. TBE, the best ever. People say now he's one of the best ever. He stayed so long, everyone starts to agree with it. So I think the same thing with Ronda Rousey got to her head and many other athletes when they get to the top.
You know what's really nice is when you watch a lot of these fights or these events going on, it's really cool. And I know some people, like, if you get the casuals that don't really watch these MMA events and they're like, oh, fuck with the corners, and say that's boring. I'm just waiting for them to get back in the cage and start fight. I actually really enjoy. I mean, I'm a hardcore fan. I really enjoy watching. Like, I think when I was watching your fight, I was actually like, I was listening in the corner. It was really interesting, like what you guys talk about and like. And some for the average person, I think people are thinking, oh, that just means whatever. But for hardcore fans, when you actually listen and know what's going on, it's really nice to kind of, if you got people that know how to fight or know a game plan they're watching, it's kind of cool to watch them listening to it or talk about it. And they're like, yeah, so he needs to do. And then like the coaches are like talking about it, like talking about the same thing. And I enjoy watching it. I enjoy like watching the corners talk about like what they need to do mid fight, like making mid fight adjustments, especially if it's like a 5-rounder. I think it's awesome. Like for yourself, do you guys have maybe like a favorite team that you've watched? Okay, besides throwing yourself out, do you guys have a favorite team that you've kind of watched in the mid fight, or a moment that you've watched that you really like?
I think when you're telling me, right now, the one fight that comes to mind is Justin Gaethje versus Tony Ferguson.
Yeah.
And how Trevor Whitman speaks Justin Gaethje's language. I can tell you this from personal experience. Trevor Whitman is an evil mastermind. Like he will, he's probably the best gaslighter you've ever met. Like, and I say that in the most positive way possible. Like, this guy uses this gaslighting for good. Is he will get you to believe that you could fly. And somebody's like, dude, just jump off the cliff, and you'll jump off. You're like, I can fly, like he's that guy. And same thing with Justin Gaethje, where when he's talking to him, he speaks in his language clear enough so he goes, hey man, why are you throwing 100%? Stop it. Like, you're having fun, right? Hit him. You're going to have more fun hitting him with 60% and multiple more shots compared to one big shot 5 times in this round and missing 20 of them. And now you're getting exhausted. Relax, have fun. That second round, he comes, does different things. And now Justin Gaethje's not just winning, but he's like dominating the fight. And it just keeps on going. And Trevor's style keeps on changing as the rounds go on. So to me, that's the fight that stands out the most, or even just any fight that Justin Gaethje's had. Like, Trevor's just always on the side, like watching Teen Gohan get fucked up by Cell before he transforms. And Goku's just like, my son's gonna do it, like that's Trevor Whitman. Like, he's having a good time. So he's an evil mastermind. So I think that's probably one of the best teams I've ever seen.
The one that I like is one boxer that I think he's Russian or something like that, and he's like losing all the fight, and he's on the last round.
The Mike Tyson one, yeah.
He's like, you need to go, you need to Mike Tyson, baby. He's like all sad, and he hears Mike Tyson, and he goes like, Mike Tyson. I like Mike Tyson, and then he goes and get the knockout. It's crazy. It's amazing how you can like by knowing the fighter, you can say something that triggers his mind to do something, to believe in himself. I know that he likes Dragon Ball Z, so I'm like, okay, let's do something like this. Or you like to be the hero in the story, I'm not gonna say people, I'm like, okay, you need to do this so you can get this, and all positive for Shorty,
Like cookies.
But like the other side, I have one student like Dieguito. He's a really good fighter. He's gonna be he's gonna be
mi primo.
Yeah. He's gonna be trouble. You will hear from him like in 5 years. I promise you that. And he likes to create chaos, he likes to hurt people. He likes to stand and go. He's Mexican. So he likes that. I'm not gonna say like, oh, be nice to him. You know, you need to take care of him. No. He's like, you need to go and break that.
Yeah, he's a
And that
violent
guy,
kid.
you know.
It's funny because I sparred with him last week, and I like Mike started watching, and I was like, oh, we're having fun, going tit for tat. And I put my hands down trying to do the Max Holloway against Calvin Cater. And I was like, I'm the greatest boxer there is, blah, blah. And then out of nowhere, Diego's like, okay. And he hit me like 3 really good times. And I was like, oh, shit. I'm not the best boxer. I'm sorry. I can't play with you.
In your mind, you spoke.
Yeah.
Because in reality, you wait, I'm the best.
Yeah.
And
I didn't get the full sentence out.
Yeah.
Damn, you hit me that hard, huh?
Yeah, it was fun. So that's it. You know, like you need to know the fighter. That's like going back to the other subject. Like to give good advices in the corner, you need to know the fighters. So that's how like Trevor Whitman works. Like Tim Welch is the guy that coached Sugar O'Malley. Like that's why there's certain like teams that work together that well. You know, because they take the time and they take the effort to make the fighter better. You know.
Mm-hmm. I think the best coaching styles, like Mike said, I only work with certain people. Me, I only sponsor good people. I don't sponsor good athletes, and then I hopefully if I get a chance to, I coach them or help them personally. I think the best teams are families because these guys know each other. It's like brother and sisters. Like when they talk shit to each other, it's like, but it's their family. Like it doesn't really offend them because they're family. Somebody else says, it's like, you motherfucker, goddamn, So, and same thing, vice versa. When they start saying good things, it's like, oh, they know this really means a lot to me because they know me. They pay attention. Or worse is worse, they've been with me so long. Fuck, they better know this about me. So it becomes a family thing to where. Another reason why I've never really had coaches my entire career besides my coach, Master Bob, at home is given he has a school, I can't take him everywhere with me around the country and the world. But the fact is I've been at really high-level gyms. Like I love Extreme Couture, but I don't work one-on-one with any of the coaches. Yes, Eric helps me, Dennis helps me, all these different coaches there and multiple, Nate and multiple more. But I don't work with them one-on-one. They'll give me little tips. They'll watch me every once in a while and go, hey, you should do this. And I respect it completely to the fullest, but when it comes to a fight, they don't know me. So I'm not saying I wouldn't respect what they have to say. For sure I would, and I'll take that into account, but that also might not be my fighting style. I start living with somebody or start respecting somebody and seeing them every day and they start to get to know me. They don't just become a friend, but they become almost like a brother or sister and go, oh, this is how Shorty reacts. This is what he needs, and vice versa. And that's another reason why I'm staying with him. Another reason why, I have him in my corner now, every fight. It's I want people that I trust and that I know that worst comes to worst, like, yes, they're getting paid regardless, but it's not about the money. It's about helping me and helping me succeed. The money is just a plus. Hell yeah, the money helps, but that's not what I was in it for. This helps me. I feel good helping you. I genuinely want to help you. And if the money comes, even better. It's like him with, working with Lazy for so many years, possibly for free. And then now he starts
losing
getting paid.
Money.
Losing money.
It wasn't free. I was losing money.
And then now, Lazy somewhere, and worse is worse. Even let's say he doesn't get paid. He's like, dude, I took this kid up here. Like, I feel good about it because this kid came from nothing. And I was able to help him out.
Yeah, no, I think that's excellent, man. Like, and that's why I've said in the past, like, I admire guys like fighters like yourself because just the way you carry yourself and even if you don't physically have the belt with you, but you carry yourself as a champion, you're a champion at heart. And that's what it's all about, the way you carry yourself, and just the way you speak about things and helping other fighters out. I think that's awesome. One thing I wanted to bring up though, obviously there's the news of the Sphere, I think in Las Vegas, the UFC, they're supposed to put it on. And I believe, and I might sound like an idiot and I might not know what I'm talking about, but I think that they're trying to have that as the Mexican Independence Day card.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bringing it up, and I think you know where this is going. Is Lazy Boy? Do you think Lazy Boy is going to get on that card?
There's nothing.
No comment.
He's just like, you're just a coach here.
The crazy thing is, we 100% want to get him on that card. Dude, it makes nothing but sense. This kid fucking gained almost 500,000 followers, from one card in Mexico City. Just imagine him on Mexican Independence Day for a fight. Like, just that is ridiculous. So especially him training Extreme Couture. He already has a fan base in Vegas. Easily has a lot in Mexico, and Mexicans are going to be coming out to Vegas to enjoy the show with that. It makes nothing but sense. I mean, hell, even put him on the regular ESPN prelims, like not the Fight Pass prelims that he was on before. Like put him on the regular prelims, ESPN, and have him put on a show, have him be the or the main event for those prelims, and have a good time to bring up his name more. Hopefully, they give him again, that's something we're trying to do is get him to fight September, and given that's gonna be a journey. But we got to try to get him to fight September regardless, because his last fight was win in
February 24.
So he's young. So we're trying to keep him as active as possible. Also, because of his body type, again, he's like me, we eat a lot. And if we have such a long break, we don't get as motivated as much. So it's like, we get to eat a little bit, do this, do that little. We're actually eating a lot, and we're getting a lot more weight. So him staying active also, it's like the Alexander Volkanovski thing. He's like, man, I get depressed when I'm not fighting. I need something to do. For lazy, it's just getting him inside the gym, get him a purpose. Like he has a family, he has a wife, he has people at home, supporting him, and especially where he's come from, like he wants to keep on winning and succeeding. So getting him to fight in front of that spear, I think not just for himself, but even for the UFC is a great marketing tactic to put him on there. And that's what we're trying to do. Fingers crossed. There's no opponent, there's no fight date, but that's the main goal, is to get him in that spear, because I think business wise, it makes sense for both parties.
Yeah, and looking at that card, I believe the UFC is trying to put on that trilogy fight with Alexis Grasso and Valentina.
Oh, yeah, it's confirmed, I think.
That's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a great fight. The last two, the first one, I don't know how I feel, because I like Valentina, and I knew of.
Well, never mind.
Grasso, and she's been in there for a long time. But I really like Valentina, so it's hard to kind of say like, was it just a luck, or was it just she got her by surprise? Was it just one simple mistake? I don't know, because the second fight was a draw, so that's fine. But with the third fight, and without being biased, because obviously, you got your girl Alexa over there. How do you kind of see that third fight going down? And that's a question for both of you.
I can say from, again, personal experience, yes, there are mistakes in fights, but that's also the point of the preparation. You have to be ready for those situations, and especially Shevchenko being such a dominant champion. Like, yeah, she might have got a little cocky, like, I'll be fine on the ground. And then Alexa 100% jumped on it faster than any other person would have, I think. But that also shows that she was ready to be a champion at that point. So I think things happen for a reason. And as much as mistakes do happen, and I have my personal regrets in my own little fights of like, woulda, shoulda, couldas, I should have been prepared for that, both mentally and physically. So that's part of the sport, and that's why that person or whomever beat me. But the third fight, I think Alexa Grasso is going to come out. I think she's really going to come out and show her stuff, because she learned from that second fight. Like, oh damn, Shevchenko's really not just improving on the feet, but also on the ground, to where Grasso technically is a little bit better. So she's not just trying to improve on the ground game, but also has to work on their stand-up game to get the fight to the ground, and also how to subdue her a little easier, to keep the fight more dominantly in her favor, instead of like, oh, was it a draw? Was it, this way or that way? Because Shevchenko, man, she's dangerous. She's a very, very dangerous fighter, but I think Alexa Grasso is getting a lot more support for this camp more than ever. And if she fights at that spear, I think it's a phenomenal thing for her. And I think, they were in Vegas for the Ultimate Fighter show. I believe that's already wrapped and filmed. I'm just going to safely assume she's back in Guadalajara training, but maybe she's at the UFC PI here in Mexico City, and maybe she starts training more in Vegas and, doing that and getting a little more acclimated to the scenery.
Yeah, I think she's gonna win. Not because like Mexican, but in the second fight, I think the only mistakes she made was like not like having the trust in her tools. Like her boxing is really good, but she didn't like open up too much because she was respecting too much of Valentina. Yeah. And I think when I'm getting nerdy in this, but when she turns to southpaw, she started to find her rhythm, and that's like something she didn't expect. Like she was like, "Oh, I'm getting this. That's why she dropped her like relatively easy, And I think she's gonna have a better game plan, and now she's gonna trust more in her hands than in the last fight. I mean, that's like my 2 cents that she needs to do, Like
Grasso has good boxing. She has really good boxing.
Yeah, but feel
Yeah.
it, and you know, she wasn't feeling it, and she wasn't like open up that
She was
that
very
much.
she was very timid. You can tell,
Yeah.
like Mike was saying, there was too much respect there. It's like,
Mhm.
oh, but or the Mexican way of like, you know what, man, you understand you're gonna take a hit to possibly get 2 or 3.
Exactly. Yeah, she just need to take the chances. You know, like I think she's gonna do better because Valentina is a better kicker, and but you know when you have a really good boxing stance, sometimes kicks doesn't like work that much. You know,
Yeah.
so she can take the fire to her, and it will be it's gonna be a great fight, like a really great fight. But I think she can get even the finish. You know.
Yeah, and as much as I really like Valentina, I know you talked about not being biased. I do, and like you said, she has great kicks, and I think, but with the combination of her boxing and the footwork that she possesses, I just feel like she'll be able to close those distance when she's throwing. Like if Valentina's throwing those kicks, and I'm sure she will, because it's part of her like what she does. I do feel like Alexa is gonna definitely pick up on that and be able to use her footwork to get in when she's throwing those kicks, and I think that's going to really cut Valentina off. And I definitely think you could definitely see another because I think she got dropped in the last fight as well. So it's I mean, and also too, like I don't want to call Valentina old, but she's definitely like she's not, she's not a spring chicken anymore. She's like 35 years old. It's typically I do find women do I I don't know, what I've seen is that they've been able to fight longer. I mean, you got Holly Holm fighting at 42 years old, and maybe she's not what she was at 32, but she's still hanging in there. And
I
so
think
I don't know.
I think she's like women can like scientifically they can fight longer than men because
Yeah,
they
genetic, yeah,
have like the hormone drops that men have and when they grow old. But I think Valentina is getting old because she's been fighting Muay Thai since she was a kid, you know, and the body knows, the body feels it, you know, and she's getting done into that, you know, the body can only take so much damage.
They always talk about like Lomachenko, for example, almost 400 amateur fights. And then, at the time, I think he was 31, 32 with 13, 14, professional fights. And they're like, is this going to be his last fight? And they're like, dude, he's technically in his prime, but maybe his prime when he was 28 because he's been through so many wars. So like I'm obviously don't have that much experience as he does, but I'm like, man, I'm about to be 32 in August. My body hurts. So as you get older, your body can't do the same things as it wants to, even though your mind's like, let's go do it. And you're like, what the fuck's happening? You're like melting away. So as I was, last Tuesday. But, the fact is, Shevchenko's good, but it's also hard to teach an old dog new tricks. So she's a phenomenal athlete, and there's nothing going against it. She'll always be respected as that. But I think Alexa Grasso, now entering her prime, still has a lot to learn and a lot to grow from compared to Shevchenko.
Yes.
It's just a little bit harder to get used to those moves or those new things that she needs to do. She's very smart, very talented, but can she also take the hits like she used to when she was younger?
and I think that's going to be a question of her longevity as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, and then at that point, let's say she loses this fight because we'll never know what's going to happen. But let's say she does lose this fight, then she's got to look at it. Okay, I lost the first one, the second one was a draw, so technically, I mean the belt was still retained. So, I mean, you lose the third fight. Where do you and at the age that she's at and what she's done, everything in her career, I mean that. What does she do? Does she go back up to bantamweight because those bantamweights are just so much bigger than her? She definitely has options.
Have her fight Kayla Harrison. She'll make some good money. Worst comes to worst, she'll make some good money. And I mean, stylistically, I know Kayla Harrison would love to take that fight because it's another former champion that she gets to beat. So and for Kayla, that's just nothing but motivation for her. I don't know if she has the next title fight. Who is the champion at bantamweight for the ladies? Right?
Raquel Pennington.
So
she has it.
But I mean, hell, if Shevchenko bumps up and wins one fight, she can fight Raquel Pennington. But that next fight will probably be Kayla Harrison. So I just think it'd be fun to watch that fight. Stand up versus ground, especially they're both dominant at their certain respective sports and styles. But that would be a fun fight to watch if Shevchenko decides to lose that fight. But what if Grasso loses at 25? what happens next with that too? Does she stay there and keep on going until Shevchenko's like, all right, cool, I'm done, I'm out of here? Or, does she, make a bump up as well, or just try to keep on, in a sense, being a gatekeeper until she finally gets a chance to redeem herself?
Yeah, I don't know. It's but definitely one common thing I've seen is a champion wins a belt, and even before thinking about defending the belt, they're already talking about I'm going to move up the weight class, and I get it because I understand. I think Conor McGregor, when he came into the sport, he kind of introduced that whole being a two times or not 2 times, excuse me, like a 2-weight champion simultaneously. So I like that he kind of opened up the idea of having the opportunity to do it, but I feel like fighters, no matter what organization you're in, I feel like you need to at least defend that belt. And if you beat somebody for the belt who maybe was dominant for so many years, I think they are deserving to get that shot back, whether they got beat bad or dominated or whatever, depending on timeline, how the organization works. But in my personal opinion, I feel like if you beat the champion, you need to defend against the former champ. And then if you beat them and maybe win another fight, I think if you can, or you can go up or down a weight class, sure, by all means, go ahead. But it just seems to be a common thing where someone wins a belt and then they go in and they say, oh, yeah, no, I want to go up to, like, I think it was Ilya Taporia. And he talked about,
Yeah.
I want to go up to 155. I don't know. Like, I mean, I respect that, but I think you need to defend your belt there, bud.
I get it. I 100% agree with you where realistically you defend your belt, show you're not just a champion, but a dominant one. And then cool, you beat the next best guy. They'll fight it out to see who's the next best guy after that. And then you can bump up because there's time away. Because when you bump up, you're holding that weight class back, especially if there's somebody that's been waiting there for so long. It's like, when is it my turn? But there's the big but here is this career is not that long, and our next fight technically could be our last. So with that being said, you got to make the best of it. And if you can talk the talk, again, Conor McGregor walk the walk and also make a ton of money, not just for yourself, but the promotion's like, fuck, respect. You're bumping up. Like, we want to see this fight because it's going to make us a ton of money. And with that being said, you're going to make a lot of money as well in return. And because our next fight might be our last, dude, let's make as much money as possible before this career is over because you just never know what could happen. So I 100% honor and respect the game of cool, fight, defend. No one there, cool, bump up resume-wise, that makes sense. But, dude, if you have the opportunity to talk, walk the walk, all that stuff, make your money. Bump up, do that. So if Ilya Taporia has a chance, do it. Do I want to see it? No. I 100% want to see him defend the belt, but I also don't know his lifestyle. I don't know how much money he spends naturally, his family, his kids, stuff like that. I'm not him. So let him make his money, let him do his thing, and then go from there.
I think it's all depending of the star power of the athlete, like Tupuria has something that he can fight at least 2-3 times like a bump, and everyone will see that, he earned that because all of the interviews he's saying he's like the new McGregor, he's doing something like really special here, but you take example like Aljamain Sterling, like if he was winning the fight against who lost to again?
Sean O'Malley.
To Sean O'Malley. Let's say he won, he's still gonna be hated on and not that famous, Even if he moves up to 145, it wouldn't make sense, like
no one was even happy with his win against Calvin Kattar.
Exactly, like it doesn't make sense. But if you have Tupuria, if you have Islam, if you have John Jones, if you have who else? Sugar O'Malley, that's the kind. I mean, there's 4 guys who can do that. Like even it's like Michael Chandler. I'm a huge Michael Chandler fan. He's not gonna sell anything in 170. Like even if he's 155 champion, that's like the star power that you need to have, and you need to treat those fighters in a different way. Like it's like Islam. Now it makes sense that he goes up to welterweight because he can be double champ. Because his next fight is gonna be really, really hard. It's Sarukian, so they're already thinking like, oh, he might lose. Let's give him a shot in 170. If he loses, he loses. He makes money. We make money. He goes back being a champion with the name is still intact, and then if he loses, we still make money. And until
and they can do the whole the champion's bumped up, so he didn't vacate it, but we can have an interim belt. Whoever's gonna fight for the real belt after that, and then
Exactly.
Sarukian versus Humet Volk, you know, and then they have that, and so win or lose, he goes back down and then fights that champion.
Yeah,
you know?
it's all
So,
about timing and star power, you know, and making the right decisions. That's what I would do with Islam, you know.
damn politics. But yeah.
Well, we could go on all day about it, but we are running out of time here, gentlemen. So, Mike, again, my apologies at the beginning. Or I know we were shooting the shit, but thanks again for taking the time, man. And you know, you're obviously our first guest coming on here, so we
I'm
do appreciate it. And
Ever.
what's that?
I'm gonna remember him forever. He was our first. Luke, he was our first.
I popped the cherry in small talk.
No. You popped the cherries. Yeah.
Cherries,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll for sharing the show. No, it's all good, man. No, but seriously, no, we do appreciate it, and I know it was just a talk away to get you on here, but no, I appreciate you coming on here and talking a little bit about your experience and being a coach and as a fighter. And no, again, we appreciate it. And for people that don't know, if you want to find our show, it's on the MMA Unhinged YouTube page, and you can follow us there. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And this is episode 3. So, Shorty, again, thank you as well, as always. And yeah, we'll definitely be talking again next week.
Yeah, we're gonna go outside, grab some tacos now, and then go for a random run.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and it's fun. It's fun to talk about the things that we like, you know, like fighting, coaching, eating, everything. The country, it's fun. So whenever you want me to be back, I'll be back.
It's first and this
and last.
It's your last time out here. That's for sure.
Yeah, no problem. All right, you thanks again, and we'll talk again soon. All right.
Thank you, man.
Ooh.